You're hearing from rapper T.I.'s daughter about the controversial comments he made about her virginity. Now, T.I., we talked about it here on the show, made headlines in November after saying he takes his daughter, Deyjah, to the gynecologist every year to check her hymen. In a recent episode of T.I. and Tiny Friends and Family Hustle, Deyjah, opens up about how his comments impacted her and their relationship. Watch.
I do think my dad treats me differently than the boys when it comes to the subject of sex and supervision. My dad even jokes with King about becoming a baby daddy. He would never joke like that with me.
This situation is just a little traumatizing for me.
Oh, Erica, listen, we both, interviewed T.I. You actually were just recently on his podcast. But then seeing how emotional and traumatized Deyjah is in that interview, what do you make of all of this?
I feel really bad for Deyjah. I've expressed this since the first time that we had this conversation, which was months ago when the story first came out. Being the daughter of a Black father, I was very candid about the way that sex was handled in our household, and the idea that my dad came to me the day before I went to college, and I was a virgin going into college, and told me if I got pregnant I couldn't come home, if this happened I couldn't come home, and these were all the consequences of me making the wrong decision, so to speak. When I look back on that conversation, sometimes I'm very grateful for it because I didn't do what he feared me doing so much. But what did I do as an alternative of not having my own body and my own sexuality as my own? So I really want parents to think about that when they're having those conversations and they're trying to scare their children straight, so to speak, because the consequences may be that you get what you're talking about, but what's going to be the long-term damage of that? And Deyjah is in a very public situation, and I think now it's more understood that just because they're a public family doesn't necessarily mean that everything is for public consumption.
Yeah, and today's Deyjah's birthday. She's 19 now, Jeff. Do you, to Erica's point, because Erica's speaking from her experience as a female and as a Black female with a Black father, but I also think there's a double standard when it comes to parenting and sons and parenting and daughters.
I think you're right. I think that's true to acknowledge that. Me being a father, Sam, it's hard. You being a mother, it's hard. You don't want to do anything to screw your kids up or be so traumatic that they remember it for the rest of their lives. That's my biggest fear as a father. Luckily, I shouldn't say that. I have 2 boys. I shouldn't say luckily. I'm from all boys. My cousins are all boys. If I had a daughter, I would make some mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes with my boys. That's the biggest fear as a parent. And as T.I., he made a mistake here, okay? He made a mistake. He shouldn't have done that. But you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you can't be a better father after this. You have to learn from what you've went through and be a better parent. So people are really coming at T.I. for this, maybe rightfully so, but I'm going to make mistakes. There's going to be times where I did something wrong with my kids, and that's my biggest fear.
It's how you evolve.
But you got to get through it. You got to grow as a parent.
Right. You got to grow. You got to evolve. You got to bounce back. And, when he did Red Table Talk, he did take ownership. I know some people didn't think he did, but he apologized to his daughter and promised that he would be a better father. So listen, we're not in their everyday life, and hopefully those statements are true. I can only empathize.